Welcome back, friends and followers. Josh from Magic Skateboard Media. Thanks for joining me on another episode. Today we're going to talk about something that everyone goes through when they first start doing anything, and it's learning the terminology. So I kind of wanted to touch bases on what I experienced when I first started one-wheeling, which was a year and a half or so ago. Some of the terminology that I came across that at first I had no idea what anybody was referring to. It didn't take long to figure it out once you actually get on a one-wheel and experience it. But before you do, and you're doing all the research and deciding if you're gonna get a one-wheel, there's a lot of terminology that you come across that you don't know because you haven't ridden a one-wheel. So the first one, a big one that I heard a lot that you just don't know until you're on a one-wheel. Float. What is float? Float is when you're level on your board, your one-wheel, and you're riding it. It's the sensation of traversing terrain on a singular wheel device facing sideways in the orientation of a skateboard. It's the sensation that you get. You're floating over the terrain. You're floating. Anyways, another one that I should have known, but I didn't really understand is toe and heel. And what that refers to is when you're standing on your board, I might as well just, since it's here. When you're standing on your board and you're level, you can lean to your toe side forward or your heel side backwards. No matter what orientation you ride, goofy, regular, they stay the same. So yeah, toe side, heel side was a good one. I didn't really quite understand until I had gotten onto a one-wheel and experienced the float life firsthand myself. So it has to do, the toe and heel comes into play when you're at a complete stop the most. Much like a bicycle, once you get going, toe and heel isn't as much of a worry because you're in motion. Then it's more swaying your hips combined with toe and heel. But yeah, so that's what toe and heel means. It's the direction that you're leaning to shift your weight and steer your board. When I first started, not long after is when this next terminology came up, number 3, which would be pushback and haptic buzz, which pushback occurs when you reach the minimum max speed. So the max speed is 20 on the Pint S. The minimum max speed that you start reaching haptic is 18, I believe. So, pushback. The minimum speed you start experiencing pushback and getting a haptic buzz sensation would be at 16, accelerating and progressively getting worse the further into pushback that you proceed towards 20 miles an hour. But anyways, pushback and haptic buzz. Pushback is when the board tips its nose back, telling you that you are starting to reach its limits and you should slow down, and that if you push further past the pushback and the haptic buzz, which is the simultaneous pushback and vibrating and noise that you hear when you've reached pushback, telling you you've reached the limits of the board and you should just back off a little bit. Pushback and haptic buzz, definitely want something to know if you're looking towards getting a one-wheel. That's a feature that you need to know about. Moving on, Vesque. Vesque would be Vetter Electric Speed Controller. Now, you'll hear all kinds of stuff about Vesque and have no idea what it is. The short and easy answer is it's the alternative to future motion. It's the alternative to buying a product straight out of the box, turning it on, and it working. Vesque is basically a board system platform that you get to completely customize yourself, from the software settings that control how the board reacts and functions, down to the hardware, what specific parts and what companies you want to get different things from. Vesque is your custom. I want to do everything myself. And yeah, so I heard a lot about Vesque and had no idea really what it was until I started going on group rides, and that was when it really started coming into play and I actually got to experience it for myself. So Vesque is the alternative to Onewheel Future Motion's out-of-the-box boards that you can buy. Stoke and spreading the Stoke. For the most part, Stoke is the feeling that you get and the excitement of riding your board and spreading it. And you know, you want other people to understand that excitement and that rush that you get from riding the board. And spreading the Stoke is spreading the culture and the excitement and the feeling, and trying to bring other people into the culture to experience it, because it's another one of those things where it's hard to describe until you've experienced it. But once you've experienced the Stoke and what it is to ride, spreading the Stoke comes first nature. It's just like the love for the board and trying to get other people to experience that sensation. Spreading the Stoke kind of leads you on to the next terminology word, that would be flow state. Scientifically, flow state is when a person is completely honed and focusing on one specific task and nothing outside of it. The outside world of that singular task does not matter. It is the only singular task that is being focused on and performed. And that's the scientific definition of flow state. As far as flow state goes, one-wheeling, flow state is when you are riding at your peak performance and you are in the moment, you're present, you are only focusing on you, your board, and the terrain coming up, and you are completely locked in. You're in flow state, you're flowing. And a lot of people can interpret that differently, but that's flow state. That's what it is. It's no thought, all action. You're just completely one with your board and the environment around you, affecting what your reality is in that exact moment. You're in flow state. You're in the present, you're in the moment. So, and that honestly is, I call it, for me personally, I call it when I'm at full float state. And that's like when I'm at max speed, pushing my own personal boundaries, pushing the boundaries of when I know where the board is, of pushing the boundaries that I know the board has, and just feeling it. I'm not thinking, I'm just riding in the moment. So that's my own personal definition of flow state. So there you have it, 3 different interpretations. Shredding. So, I mean, technically, you can be flowing and shredding at the same time, but I feel like shredding is when you're at full flow state and you are riding aggressively on purpose. You're shredding, you're in the chunk, you're in the dirt, you're in the thick of it, you're going over the whoops, you're fully geared, you're going down the mountain, you're going up the chunk, you're shredding, you're absolutely destroying. You could be on a smooth, you're going fast, you're in it, you're absolutely shredding. You're destroying the terrain around you, you're shredding it. So it's kind of another one of those things, shredding. You gotta kind of do it before you know what it actually is. So, running it out. Number should have been number 1, because running it out is, you want to know what running it out is before you even step foot on a one-wheel. So running it out is whether you've reached the max speed, for whatever circumstances. Running it out is when you hop off your board and are already running at whatever speed that you are going, because if you do not hop off running and you're in and your board is in motion, you are going to hit the ground immediately. So running it out is typically when you are moving in motion, a lot of the time, majority at high speed, typically always at high speed, but running it out can happen at low speed as well. For whatever reason, you hit chunk, you hit some chunder, you lose engagement with your board, and you already know that you're coming off of it. You need to hit the ground running so you don't just hit the ground, because when you're running, you could potentially run it out and not fall. And that's what running it out is. Running it out is jumping off your board and running at the same rate of speed that your board is traveling in order to not face plant or hit the ground. So running it out it's what you want to know how to do. So that was Onewheel terminology words that I wish that I would have known when or before I started one-wheeling. It would have made understanding the culture and the lingo and assimilating a lot easier. Regardless, you gotta do your research anyways, so that's half the battle. Let me know if there's some one-wheel terminology that I missed. Let me know if your definition of some of the terminology I gave differs, because I know everyone's got a different opinion of maybe what shredding is or things like that. So definitely leave a comment. Let me know anything I missed. Definitely like, subscribe, watch the video on the left, the right. Make sure to take action, stay motivated, get out there, get on your board, get a ride, hit a car meet, do what you love, do what drives you, and I will see you on the next one. Float on, my friends.